Batting for one South Asia makes more sense. When it comes to climate change, India's ideas would pack more punch if they have a clear road map for the region. Over the course of 4 days, at the G20 in Rome and COP26, the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, in Glasgow, Scotland, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke at nearly a dozen events, expanding on India's plans to counter climate change. India's record since the 2015 Paris Accord and initiatives such as the International Solar Alliance (ISA) and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure (CDRI), as a part of which Mr. Modi, along with other leaders, launched the Infrastructure for Resilient Island States (IRIS). At the World Leaders Summit at COP26 were widely welcomed. The announcement of India's new nationally determined contributions (NDCs) and the Panchamrit, or 5 goals for the future, elicited applause from across the audience. Missing, however, was any reference to India's own region, the subcontinent, South Asia, without which India's multiple forays on fighting climate change could well prove fruitless. South Asia's feeble voice. The absence of a South Asian initiative on climate change led by India accrues to a number of obvious reasons. India-Pakistan tensions that have led to the degradation of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC) process, especially since 2014, when the last SAARC summit was held. Events in Afghanistan and the Taliban takeover, which will bring it closer to its Central Asian rather than South Asian neighbors. The differences over pollution issues within the Bangladesh-Bhutan-India-Nepal BBIN grouping that has held up its initiatives like the Common Motor Vehicle Agreement due mainly to Bhutan's opposition, and slow movement amongst the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation (BIMSTEC), countries along the Bay of Bengal that have yet to bring about a common charter at the global level despite adding climate change as an area of cooperation a decade ago. Impact of climate change. Why does this matter? To begin with, regardless of relations between any of the countries in South Asia, India-Pakistan being the only notable rivalry, there is no question that this is a cohesive geographical unit that is sheltered by the Himalayas to the north, fed by its many glaciers in an intricate network of rivers that fall into the ocean, and buffeted by the same climate and monsoon conditions. Second, South Asia is slowly becoming the world's biggest area of concern when it comes to climate change. According to this year's Global Climate Risk Index, India and Afghanistan are among the top 10 countries worldwide in terms of vulnerability, but South Asia classifies for the overall lowest values. By one estimate, 20 out of 23 major cyclone disasters in the world in the past have occurred around the Bay of Bengal region, and global warming, coastal degradation and soil salinity as well as water scarcities cause the deaths of thousands in South Asia each year. The Asian Development Bank now predicts a decrease of 11% in South Asian GDPs by 2100 if business as usual (BAU) emissions are maintained. With global warming and sea levels rising, other estimates predict there will be nearly 63 million climate migrants in South Asia by 2050. Costs of climate inaction, displacement and distress migration. Second, all these grim figures build a logic for a combined push for global reparations and assistance for the entire region. As a part of the developing world, the Indian subcontinent is not responsible for the massive damage done to the environment already wrought by the developed world, and according to 2019 figures, no single regional bloc has lower per capita emissions than South Asia does. Green potential. When New Delhi speaks of the need for climate justice, global funding and climate adaptation technology transfer, India's voice would only be strengthened multiple times if it speaks for South Asia as a whole. According to the World Bank's newly launched South Asia Roadmap, climate-smart investment opportunities in South Asia total a whopping $3.4 trillion, with energy-efficient green buildings alone representing an investment potential of more than $1.5 trillion. Green transport connectivity and infrastructure. Electric vehicles could represent another $950 billion in investment opportunities by 2030. This does not include the vast sums of funding available for cross-regional solar grids, wind farms and run-of-river energy projects. Other drawbacks. China However, while India and other countries in the region access global banks, including the BRICS-led New Development Bank (NDB), the Beijing-based Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and Asian Development Bank for projects individually, there is no single South Asian entity the banks could work with for a more targeted focus and more concessional financing for the problem that faces the region. Third, growing carbon footprints as well as post-COVID-19 economic compulsions are driving countries into closer regional coalitions, looking for solutions closer home than those provided by globalization and long-distance supply chains. South Asia has remained an exception, persistently showing lower inter-regional trade and connectivity, and lower levels of cooperation on migrant labor issues, interstate tourism and cross-border employment than other regions. Finally, New Delhi has often warned of the pernicious influence of Chinese solutions to problems in the subcontinent, ranging from unsustainable infrastructure financing to environmentally harmful projects as part of the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), but it has been unable to proffer a viable alternative, with or without its Quad partners. On certain issues, where India has failed, South Asian neighbors have learned to seek help from other international partners or even each other. When India stopped COVID-19 vaccine exports this year, for example, Bhutan, which received vaccines from Denmark and a number of other countries including the United States and China after a desperate global appeal, in turn helped Nepal with stocks of AstraZeneca. When New Delhi failed to respond to Sri Lanka's request for assistance with its currency and debt crisis last year, the Rajapaksa government turned to Bangladesh for a currency swap arrangement. The problems between India and Pakistan that have multiplied manifold in the past few years are no doubt a major obstacle, but not one that cannot be surmounted in the face of a common challenge, as the special SAARC conference on COVID-19 in March 2020 showed. New Delhi can show the way. When it comes to climate change, there is a chance to turn this trend, and for India, the largest country in the region sharing the most boundaries with other South Asian neighbors, to lead the way to find holistic solutions, accessing funding, tapping the latest climate adaptation technology, and finding cross-border markets for renewable energy networks. Mr. Modi's One Sun, One World, One Grid, and Panchamrit plans would clearly pack more punch if they contain a clear road map for the region, and strive for a common South Asian task force to tackle the enormous challenge that lies ahead for India and its neighborhood this century.
As India created history by vaccinating 100 crore people against COVID-19, All India Radio salutes all the doctors, nurses, other frontline workers, and all those who got vaccinated and made this possible. Even though the country has achieved this feat, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festival season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now, the news. The government has taken a significant decision of reducing central excise duty on petrol by 5 rupees and diesel by 10 rupees from today. The Finance Ministry said the prices of petrol and diesel will come down accordingly. The reduction in excise duty on diesel will be double that of petrol. The ministry said the farmers have kept the economic growth momentum going even during the lockdown phase through their hard work. It said the massive reduction in excise on diesel will come as a boost to the farmers during the upcoming Rabi season. In recent months, crude oil prices have witnessed a global upsurge. Consequently, domestic prices of petrol and diesel had increased in recent weeks, exerting inflationary pressure. The Finance Ministry said the world has also seen shortages and increased prices of all forms of energy. It said the government has made efforts to ensure that there is no energy shortage in the country. The ministry said the reduction in excise duty on petrol and diesel will also boost consumption and keep inflation low, thus helping the poor and middle classes. It said the decision is expected to further spur the overall economic cycle. The ministry has also urged states to commensurately reduce value-added tax, VAT on petrol and diesel to give relief to consumers. Several union ministers have hailed the government's decision to reduce excise duty on petrol and diesel. Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the decision and said that states should also reduce value-added tax on fuel to give further relief to consumers. Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan also said that concrete action from state governments will lead to further reduction in fuel price and more relief to consumers. Mr. Pradhan said that this is a responsible decision from the Modi government to bring relief to consumers. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that the move will benefit common people, further boost consumption and spur our economy. The World Health Organization (WHO) has granted approval for emergency use listing (EUL) to India's indigenously made COVID-19 vaccine, Covaxin, which has been developed and manufactured by Bharat Biotech. At the G20 summit recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had pushed for WHO nod for Covaxin, saying India will produce 5 billion COVID vaccine doses by 2022. The Technical Advisory Group of WHO, which met yesterday, has recommended the emergency use listing status for Covaxin. The World Health Organization's panel last week sought additional clarifications from the Hyderabad-based firm. WHO Southeast Asia Regional Director Dr. Poonam Khetrapal Singh, in a tweet, congratulated India for Covaxin's listing for emergency use. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu congratulated Bharat Biotech, the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, and all others associated with the development of the vaccine. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia congratulated the scientists of ICMR and Bharat Biotech for the approval of the Made in India vaccine.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत का संकल्प सिद्ध हुआ है। भारत के वैज्ञानिकों के द्वारा निर्मित संशोधित कोवैक्सीन को WHO ने अप्रूवल दिया है। इसलिए मैं भारत के हमारे ICMR के साइंटिस्ट, भारत बायोटेक के वैज्ञानिक और भारत बायोटेक कंपनी को मैं हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं।
Bharat Biotech Chairman and Managing Director Dr. Krishna Ella said, the validation by WHO is a very significant step towards ensuring global access to India's widely administered, safe and efficacious Covaxin. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stressed on the need to adopt innovative ways to increase vaccination in districts with low COVID vaccination coverage. The Prime Minister said this during a review meeting yesterday with districts having low vaccination coverage through video conferencing. During the interaction, Prime Minister discussed the issue of vaccine hesitancy and the local factors behind it. Mr. Modi said that better performing districts also had similar challenges, but they dealt with them with determination and innovation.
और एक अननोन एनिमी से कैसे लड़ा जा सकता है, ये हमारे छोटे छोटे आशा वर्कर ने भी सीख लिया है। अब आपके माइक्रो स्ट्रेटेजी बनाते हुए आगे चलना है। अब हम राज्य का हिसाब, जिले का हिसाब उसको भूल जाए। हम हर गांव में भी मोहल्ला, उसमें भी वो 4 घर बाकी रह गए तो 4 घर, बारीकी की तरह हम जितना जाएंगे हम परिणाम प्राप्त करेंगे। और जहां कहीं भी जो भी कमियां हैं उसे जल्द से जल्द दूर करके ही रहना है। जैसा अभी आपसे बातचीत में मैं स्पेशल कैंप लगाने की बात उठी, ये विचार मैं समझता हूं बहुत अच्छा है। अपने जिलों में एक एक गांव, कस्बे, इसके लिए अगर अलग अलग रणनीति बनानी हो, ऐसे 20-25 लोगों की टीम बनाकर भी ऐसा कर सकते हैं। जो टीमें आप बनाई हो उनमें एक हेल्दी कॉम्पिटिशन हो।
India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 107 crore 59 lakh mark. The Union Health Ministry said more than 27 lakh vaccine doses were administered yesterday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Kedarnath in Uttarakhand tomorrow. He will offer prayers at the Kedarnath temple, inaugurate Sri Adi Shankaracharya Samadhi and unveil the statue of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Festival of Lights, Diwali, is being celebrated across the country with traditional fervour and gaiety today. The festival, which marks the victory of good over evil, is celebrated by lighting up houses, temples and other public places. People also worship the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi, on the occasion. Ayodhya created a Guinness World Record with the lighting of 12 lakh diyas during the Potsa function in the city last evening. The record was made by lighting more than 9 lakh diyas on the bank of river Sarayu around the Ramki Pedi and other ghats, while 3 lakh earthen lamps have been lit in different parts of the city. Union Minister for Culture and Tourism G. Kishan Reddy took part in the Deepotsav festival along with Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Around 2,800 personnel of the Delhi Fire Service will be deployed in the national capital today on the occasion of Diwali. Director of Delhi Fire Services Atul Garg said they have made extensive preparations to handle fire calls during the festival. He said as many as 30 additional fire posts have also been set up across the city to handle distress calls. The Delhi Metro has said that the last metro train service will start at 10 p.m. tonight from terminal stations of all metro lines except Green Line. In T20 Cricket World Cup, India returned to winning ways as they finally opened their account by beating Afghanistan by 66 runs in a do-or-die Super 12 encounter at Abu Dhabi last night to keep their campaign alive in the tournament. And that is the end of this news bulletin.